Hello, this is Christina Simmons with the Catholic Leadership Puzzle with a episode which you might think is not supposed to be happening yet, but with the calendar year, in fact, this is New Year's Eve, so happy New Year in advance for those of you listening today. But I thought it was important for us to kind of recap about what is it that we're doing. Why is it that we're spending time on all of these puzzle pieces? Why are we so focused, especially to be able to help those whom we've been entrusted to become their best selves? And we do that, of course, by focusing holistically upon them, looking at each of them as that unique and unrepeatable person. And we're going to begin the new year with talking about coaching and accompaniment and what that looks like. But first, you have to be doing this as a leader yourself. Steven Pressfield, who many of you might know from his writings, he has a beautiful quote in which he says, "The price of leadership is self-transformation. It's self-actualization. The price of leadership is coming into one's own and demonstrating that for others to discern, to test, and to emulate." And this is part of why I think the whole idea of New Year's resolutions is such a powerful one, is because we all intrinsically know what Steven Pressfield tells us about being leaders, is that it's incumbent upon us to become that leader that others will be able to emulate, but to also test whether or not this is the leadership style, this is the type of leader I want to be, and also for others to be able to see that you're becoming your best self. When others see you on that journey and being faithful to it, then they have the courage to do the same. And that's what being a leader is fundamentally about. And this is why we should be entering into this end of the calendar year, not just with okay, how have things gone? What was, the hardest thing that happened? What was the best thing? What were the books that I read, etc. Who are the important people in your life this year? What are you hoping for? But you should be intentional about sitting down and asking yourself the questions. How am I going to become the best leader that I can be? And there are four basic concepts, or I should say, not ideals, but they are should be the bedrock of who you are as an individual. And you need to look at your life and say, how can I be able to adjust things so that way I'm able to become more like the leader that I desire, to be, and also the leader I would want to follow myself. But then also, how am I going to integrate these four qualities into my own life in a more intentional way? So, what are those four qualities? Well, the first is honesty. People will always look at you and ask the question, can I trust what they are telling me? Am I able to depend upon what they are telling me is truthful? That even if it's not in their best interest, i.e., when we say we messed up, and we don't look our best, are they still going to be honest with me? And this trust is the bedrock upon which we have to build. So, honesty. Am I, and looking at your own life and saying, am I fudging the truth a little bit so that I look better than I really am? Am I not giving credit, for example, to the people who really are doing the work? Am I taking that credit for myself? That's a part of honesty and your integrity. So trust is fundamental, and it begins with honesty. The next quality is, are you forward looking? Do you have a vision? What is it that is driving you? What is it that is propelling you forward? And within any kind of company, especially within church, it is so important for us to keep our eyes on the prize. What is our focus? If we're Christians, it is to be with God for all eternity, to become a saint, because that's what's necessary, to be with God for all eternity. So what is our opus? What is our overarching vision? What's our plan for being able to get there? What priorities do we have? What is the underlying strategy for getting you there? These are the things that you are a part of your life, but people are able to see, are you looking forward? Are you looking ahead? Or are you always looking backwards? Looking backwards is important. This is a part of assessment, but we need to be forward looking. We need to be knowing, what's our North Star? What are we focused on? The third quality is competency. Can you dream, which is to have your opus, to have your North Star, to have your mission, your focus, but can you actually do it? And this is where strategies come into play. This is where your strategic vision is implemented into what it is that you're actually doing day to day. So, for example, if you want to become a person of prayer, you need to be setting aside time to pray. If you desire to be a leader whom others come to and they will tell you that something is wrong, then when you sit down, you go and you ask for that input. You say, what's going on that I can help you do better? Or what is a situation that I can rectify so that you are able to have a better environment in which to work? And when we get that information, we actually take steps in order to make that situation either be rectified or to be resolved in a way that everyone wins. So competency is huge. It is something where we're not all going to be good at everything. So taking a look, honest look at yourself and saying, where can I improve? Where can I get better? Do I struggle, for example, with a low performing, person in my organization? And do I just kind of let it slide by because they're a good guy? Or am I sitting down? Am I providing coaching and accompaniment? That's why we're going to be focusing on that throughout the month of January. So how am I helping to try and rectify the situation? And if I've done everything I can, am I pulling the trigger and saying, hey, you're a good guy, but you're holding this organization up. We need to move on, and so do you. Is that someplace where you have to get better at? And how can you get better at that? Better human, relationship skills, better decision-making skills, asking an advisor, bringing in a coach who is telling you, hey, this is what you need to do, and they help you get through it. So those are all different things of competency that people are looking for in their leaders, and we should be as well. Finally, is inspiring. We inspire others when we are honest and forward-thinking and competent. It's that simple. It's not hard to inspire. It's not about big words. It's not about, hey, let's go take this hill, but rather it's about showing up, speaking truth, and looking at what is the mission? What do we have to try and accomplish today? And becoming as competent as possible in order to do that. Whenever you are continuing to grow yourself, then you are inspiring others to do the same. So how might you go through an assessment, a review of where it is that you might need to grow or change? Well, first off, if you are a person of faith, start with prayer. Our Lord will point these things out to you if you are being honest with Him and also with yourself. So taking a look at, where do I need to grow? Where do I need to get better so that I can help others become better? So what character traits or virtues do you want to see developed this year? What accountability might you need in order to make that happen? What are some topics or some skills that you need to learn this year to become more competent, for example? Books, to read is a huge part of that. Let me make one recommendation that is absolutely fantastic for doing the hard work day to day, and it's called Becoming Built to Lead by Chet Scott. So, Becoming Built to Lead by Chet Scott. It is a short every day, okay? And this is one day. Anybody can read one page a day, but then the work that he asks of you to do, and you're encouraged to do, is to journal, is to write. If it's easier for you to do a voice memo, great. But it's for you to wrestle with being able to put together your vision, your opus, for example, to be forward looking. It also helps you become more competent. But the biggest thing is that it helps you be honest with yourself about where are you and what are the things that you struggle with. So look at yourself, with honesty. Look at yourself with what is the leader that I desire to be? And then finally, where do I need to grow so that I can become more competent? And in the process of doing all of that, you do become an inspiring leader to others because they can see that you're doing it and they know that they then can do it as well. One of the things I'll leave you with to think about and to reflect on, and it's also from Chet Scott, the author of the book that I just recommended, Becoming Built to Lead. He says, you do not become comfortable being uncomfortable, except by doing uncomfortable things. You hear the phrase all the time, got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That means to stretch yourself, to do things that you wouldn't necessarily do. Well, the only way that you can get to that place where you can get to you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, with not knowing everything, with not being able to do everything, with not being quite sure what's the next step. You get to that state by doing uncomfortable things. And that is the greatest kind of insight about New Year's resolutions. The one thing that you need to do is to do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Another great book to read is Atomic Habits by James Clear. He gives you that it's little by little. So, for example, an analogy, a friend asked, hey, how can I start getting in shape? And they have an indoor, bicycle. And I said, get on that bike for 1 minute, 3 times a week this week, the first week of the year. And then the next week, do it for 2 minutes, and then for 3, and then for 4, etc. So the big thing is that you're doing incremental progress. And that's what the journey of life is all about. But that's what it takes to become a leader, is the incremental progress, the commitment to becoming better, so that way you are able to help others do the same. And one of the biggest things you have to do in order to invest in other people, you got to invest in yourself. So even if you're going, I'm not a leader, I don't know how I can do this, be honest with yourself, become forward looking. What's your goal? What do you want? And then gain in competency. And the end is that you will become that inspiring leader that will help others be able to become the unique and unrepeatable person that each of them are. So do it holistically, looking at those aspects of, human, spiritual, intellectual, and apostolic. So I hope that this has helped you. I hope that this will serve you, especially moving into the new year. And I look forward to sharing more with you, particularly in the weeks ahead about accompaniment and then in coaching, and then also coming back to doing more, talking about assessment and how valuable it can be in the process of our continued growth. God bless everybody. Happy New Year.